Good evening, everyone. I'm just making a short video on a viewer question. For all the viewers who watched my video, thanks, I appreciate it, and also thanks for leaving comments. Because I have my screencast set up the way I'm doing things right now, I can't see the exact question. But for the gentleman who asked why I prefer Guatemala over Mexico, or why I chose it, um, it's kind of an easy answer, but a long answer. But I'll try to kind of give you the short, easy answer. Um, Most of my life, I've been more freedom and libertarian type oriented. So I was always attracted to the what some people call the I can't think of it now. What is it called? The perpetual tourist type. Um, I don't know what to call it, but that kind of a lifestyle choice for being a perpetual tourist. That's where basically like in general, I'm just making a generalization. You put your assets in like a tax haven, you're banking in like an asset or tax haven. You have your residency in maybe another jurisdiction and or a business in yet another jurisdiction. You don't really need to go that far, like if you're an average person. But I've always liked the idea that you maybe live in a couple of different places. Like me, I like hiking, so I like to return to the United States and hike and bike. And Canada, it's the same thing. Now I'm going to get to the question, but why I chose Guatemala over Mexico. Mexico's, if you've watched my videos, it's one of my favorite places to live, and in the Philippines too. I like the culture in those places, but I'll stick specifically to Mexico. I like the infrastructure in Mexico. I like the climate, the variety of climates. As a perpetual tourist, just an example, just within Mexico, I can live in the Altiplano in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, just depending on where I live. I can be in a beach resort, and I can be in a really inexpensive hotel, like $10 to $12, with my own private bathroom. I can take a very nice bus there, very affordably. Um, or I could live on the beach, which I don't really want to. I never really liked the beach in Mexico, or I mean, I like the beach in Mexico and the Philippines, but I never really like living there like all the time. It's just not my thing. But for people who enjoy that kind of lifestyle, it can be really inexpensive and nice. But anyways, I could live like in the Altiplano, and I can be in these various nice other areas of Mexico, and it's really cheap and it's not that far away. So those are all great benefits, and the cost of living is low. I generally speaking, I like the people there. I mean, the quality of life. But there's a few. Well, there's not a lot of downsides, but there's a few, and some of them I don't want to dwell on. My intention is not to say anything too controversial. I don't mind saying controversial things, but like if you buy me a cup of coffee, I'll tell you some things that I don't want to discuss here. I don't want a lot of hate coming in on the channel. But anyways, residency for me in Mexico is not difficult or impossible or anything, but I have to jump through a lot of hoops that I mean, I could qualify. I just don't want to expose myself in a public way. Like here, let me give you an example of what happened in Ecuador. In Ecuador, people got the residency there, and they took some lawyers' advice, and they put in their income a little bit higher than it actually is to have a better opportunity of qualifying to get there or to get the residency. And just really quickly, I want a residency that leads to passport, and Mexico can do that. There's no problem there. But anyways, in doing that, what happened was, like, say, what people don't realize is when you go to these places, all the information you put on is now or coming to be online, and it's always, or most of the time, always going to be shared with Uncle Sam. Now, I'm not going to make any judgments about people cheating on their taxes, but like if you put your income is really high and you're not paying tax on it to Uncle Sam and they figure it out, well, they may or may not come after you. Well, what happened in Ecuador is people put, either what they really made or a little bit higher than what they made for income wise. And then what happened was Ecuador changed the rules after the fact and imposed a 17% tax on that income they bring into the country. Well, because of stunts like that, now Panama hasn't done that, but I hear they might be doing that. And I don't want to comment too much because I don't want to get people all mad. But like if you work with law firms, you hear these things, and you never know what's going to happen. But the one thing I can tell you that's probably going to happen, they're going to change the rules right in the middle of you getting into, let's say, Panama. I already talked to a few expats where you're going to be paying additional taxes that you wouldn't have had to pay when you first started the thing. Anyways, getting back to Mexico, I could qualify, but I don't really want to jump through the hoops because I don't like to expose myself to all those requirements that can be shared with Uncle Sam, and it may come and bite you in the butt. It may not. But what's nice about Guatemala is you can just get a temporary residency or a permanent residency, and you don't have to prove any income. I like that. And I like it for younger people. They don't have to have like a lot of money, or they don't have to have prove a stable income like a pension or something like that. That's a benefit to me and a lot of the younger people. I'm not at the official retirement age. There are some countries or some visas in some countries where if you're not a certain age, they won't even let you apply for the retirement visa. Now, Guatemala is not like that. At least I don't think it is. I think you can get the retirement visa or use your retirement income to live here at any age, but I might be wrong on that. But the Philippines, it's 50 or 45. I can't remember. But anyways, one of the benefits of Guatemala is if you get a temporary residency and then that leads to a permanent residency, or if you get a business residency, just like in Mexico, as a matter of fact. And these visas aren't always called business, but if you're willing to start a business and do things like that, I just call it that. It may be called something else. So anyways, I just want to put that out there. It can lead to a passport. And for my lifestyle choice, that's what I want. I want a second passport because the noose is tightening over Americans. What I mean by that is I used to go to bank offshore, report all my accounts, be in compliance, no problem. But then FACTA came and then GACTA came, and most bank accounts overseas will not deal with me as an American citizen. That means I can't trade or do my business. So my income's cut off, and I don't particularly want to live in the U.S., and I don't particularly want to deal with U.S. banking because in some circumstances you can't use your U.S. banking to settle trades and settle business contracts. You need U.S. dollar accounts, but if they're in the U.S., they don't want to deal with you. So that I would need a bank account offshore or in another country. I don't even mean in a tax haven or in an investment haven, just any kind of U.S. dollar account. So I need a second residency, and I need, for what I do, that's what I need. Anyways, that's why I settle in Guatemala. Another thing is once you get your local ID, your DEPI, you can travel to the C4 countries. That's another thing that I like. You don't need to wait to get your passport or use your current passport. You can just travel with your DEPI. I like that freedom that I can move around within the C4 countries on my DEPI really easily. That's a benefit to me. And then with my current U.S. passport and my residencies, the way it's all set up, I can easily travel into Mexico, do what I got to do. I enjoy going there. I mean, I know quite a few Guatemalan professionals. It's no secret we like to go up there and shop and do business and hang out and stuff like that. So without really getting the Mexican residency, I can just have a residency here. I can just travel, come and go there, and do business as I see fit. And those are basically the main reason why. There's a lot more to it. I'll just give you an example. Like recently in the news, in Costa Rica, there was a woman that was murdered there, and then shortly after that, there was an Italian expat that was murdered. He was stabbed in one of the parks there. The reason I mention all this, there's a kind of a rising, there's rising crime, but there's a rising resentment of gringos in places like Costa Rica and Mexico. And I'm mentioning that because there's more and more property crime and personal crime against people. And it's because there's just so many gringos there. And the perception is we cause prices to increase, which is partly true. I mean, we come in, we don't negotiate. When you don't negotiate a lot, that pisses people off because now the prices are going up and they blame that on you. And that can create a lot of resentment against you and create some potential problems with crime against your body and your resident, where you live, things like that. I still love Mexico and it's great, but with the world economy slowing down, I don't want a lot of visible assets in places like Mexico or even Costa Rica. I have nothing against Costa Rica, but I've noticed a lot of expats in Costa Rica have been leaving, and they went to the Nicaragua. And if you've been paying attention to the news, you've seen a lot of bad stuff happening in Nicaragua. People can't shut down their business or sell them for anything, anything resembling what they paid. So it's to me, very important you are thoughtful where you put your residency. Now, if you're just an older person and you just want to live in the country and you don't care about getting a second passport, it's a little different. I still am reluctant to have a lot of visible assets in a place in some of these Latin countries. And with proper tax planning and lawyers, you can kind of shield yourself from that. Why I even mention that is because I'll just say this. Recently, in Mexico, OXXO, it's a chain store that's like 7-Eleven, but it's not 7-Eleven, but they sell convenience stuff. Well, in certain parts of Mexico, there are certain groups of people who are, I don't know how to put this, but they're destroying those stores, firebombing them. And in Mexico, with all the great infrastructure they have, you can just buy insurance, and the stores traditionally, that chain buys insurance, and it pays for all the damage done. Well, more and more, Osho can't get insurance in I'll just say certain regions of Mexico because no one's going to insure him. Well, that's happening more and more. It's under the radar. People ain't really talking about it too much. But when these kinds of things happen and government and certain other people are in bed with each other, you really need to be cautious where you live, what you do, how you expose yourself to society there, so you could get really hurt. And again, I'm not trying to say anything negative about Mexico. I'm aware of these things. Just as an aside, one of my friends got kidnapped not in Mexico, but somewhere in Central America, and his family had lived there over 30 years. His brothers and sisters were born in this country and were citizens, and these things still happen no matter how integrated he was. And I'm not even talking about Mexico or Guatemala or Costa Rica or Panama, but again, I don't want to say where it was, but he quietly, and his family quietly sold up their businesses and then relocated. Last I heard, Peru. Anyways, there's just things to be aware of, but that's why I chose Guatemala, because despite what you hear in the press, it's a very mellow place. There's right now, because there's not a lot of gringos coming here. If you get off the tourist trail, there's just not a lot of resentment. And there's certain organizations that I don't want to talk about. They're not as entrenched in society here, so they don't have as much power and influence. I mean, of course, that's always going to change. And it's just is why I chose Guatemala. And then again, it leads to a second passport. And then again, there's no income requirements. And again, you don't need a FBI background check. There's some people that have that issue. I can get one. I don't have a problem. I don't have any, issues or anything. But just a simple DUI or smoking weed or something when you're a kid can cause you problems getting residency, even in Mexico and some other countries. I mean, I don't have those legal issues, but more and more countries are going to the FBI background check. It's just ease of residency. That's my biggest reason. And I can travel into the C4 countries without any kind of passport. So ease of travel, I can do what I need to do, want to do, what I enjoy doing. And then the other reason is there's certain trends happening in Latin America, like I kind of talked about in Costa Rica and Mexico and things of that nature. And there's some other things I don't really want to talk about here, but has to do with the U.S. government and intelligence type situations that are happening in Latin America that I just don't want to expose myself in certain places. And since Latin America is a big place and you can live wherever you want, I just chose Guatemala. That's why I chose it. I don't have much more to add to that. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. And again, it's not my intention to badmouth any. I'm not badmouthing anywhere, and I'm not saying anywhere is perfect. It's just all those ingredients thrown in there helps me. It's easy for me to get a residency. That's what it comes down to, and I can do what I want to do and need to do. Mexico just makes you jump to a few more hoops, and believe it or not, even though they've tightened up on immigration, it's still not that hard to if you want to get a business residency. A lot of people will say that, but there's a lot of misinformation online. I belong to a few expat sites, and I even heard lawyers tell me they go on there and they see all the misinformation. but it's hard to really go in there and tell people that, you know, they're not right, because they get kind of pissed off, because they'll talk to lawyers and fixers who are cutting corners. They don't really tell them that, and then they figure out later they got to start all over because they screwed up because their lawyer fixers cut corners, and then they're pretty angry about it. Anyways, that's all I have. I'll just upload this, and to the viewer, I'm sorry I can't name your name, and maybe you don't want me to, but this is just the way I have my screencast set up. Anyways, I appreciate the questions. If you have any more questions, just put them in the comment section. I'll do the best to answer them. Thanks. Good night.